examples of projects you've been in, maybe two, maybe three, and briefly tell us what it meant to you to be involved in those projects.
One of the things that I did over the last 3 years is was um, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, if you can call it work, kind of uh, putting together all of their training. We had Wednesday training classes, and I brought in different people from the community, primarily, basically men, that started with nothing but have successful careers today. And obviously, you know, there are many people that fit that criteria. But the reason was all of the kids in the program were from the Enterprise area, very low income housing. Some of those kids were working for $7 an hour to supplement their parents' income because parents had lost their jobs, they were in the process of losing their homes, and so on and so on. So when I was asked to get involved with bringing in speakers, I concentrated on one of my first speakers was Commissioner Lawrence Weekly, who was adopted himself, and started, obviously was raised very modestly, but he's risen to a very respectable position in our community. And
He's one of the county commissioners.
yes, and Councilman Ricky Barlow was our next speaker, and it goes on and on. I had a judge that started here as an immigrant, couldn't speak English, parents couldn't speak English, from Syria, and he was one of our presenters, and as I said, it goes on and on. And I didn't, so finally, and I was one of the presenters one week myself, and I asked them, I said, have you noticed that all of the speakers have a common thread? And by then, I developed a really good relationship with the young people. So they're going, okay, come on, tell me, what is it? We can't figure it out. So finally, I said, they all started with absolutely nothing, but they all have great careers today. And they were, I mean, the big eyes, and some of them were getting real weepy. And you mean we can do that?
That was the whole point.
That was the whole point. But I waited until like 4 or 5 weeks before I ever asked them, because I was waiting for somebody to pick up on it. And of course, that, I guess that isn't something a young person would even think about. But after that, I could see the interest growing with them as I scheduled next week's speaker. You know, because you had a hard time getting them into the classroom, and then finally, when they realized that, hey, these are really interesting people, and I need to listen, I could be them one day. They got where, you know, the interest level just went zoomed way up. Well, that obviously made me very happy, and there was one kid there that always stuck around to ask questions from the presenters. And then after they left, he'd come over to me, he'd say, wow, I just can't believe that they did that all on their own. And
your answer is?
And you can too. But
well, the truth is that they didn't do it on their own.
Well, they didn't, but what really impressed me more about him, and I think what I saw more than his being impressed with people that had successful careers, and you're right, nobody does anything by themselves. And I'm the first to tell anybody, when people will say, oh my God, you'll do anything to help anybody, I say, somebody help me. And I'm keenly aware of that. But anyway, this kid followed me around, he's like a little gnat, I couldn't get rid of him. And finally, I thought, if he's going to hang around me, maybe I need to try to find something for him to do. So I gave him some filing and whatever. Well, of course, that was a disaster, because that got him closer to ask me questions all day, you know. So finally, I thought, you know, he has such a strong desire to improve where he came from. And I didn't realize at the time, but he was living in a very difficult area and had been raised, I mean, talk about modestly, But his father died when he was 8 years old and left his mom with 4 little kids. And his mom is from El Salvador and a very humble person. So I said, what are your grades like? Because that's the first thing out of my mouth when little kids hang around me is, how are your grades? And he said, well, I have a 3.25 GPA. He said, but I can do better. I said, well, school's about ready to start. So when I talk to you during the year, then of course you'll tell me you're doing better. And he said, oh, okay. So he stayed in touch with me. And when he got his grades midterm, he called. He was so excited. He said, Hannah, I made the honor roll. And I said, well, I'm not surprised. I said, how many B's did you get? And he said, 2. I said, well, then when you call me back, you'll tell me you got rid of those B's. And I was really just challenging him. So I said, if you get rid of those B's, I'll help you. I'll get you in college. And nobody in his family's ever gone to college. And I had said to him over the years over the period of time that I'd known him, that I've had some college, but I didn't finish college, but I want everyone else to finish college. It is a requirement. So he called me back at the end of the year, and he said, I want to invite you to my graduation. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to be out of town. I said, and I'm not going to be able to come. He said, oh, I'm so sorry. I had a surprise for you. I said, well, can I at least know my surprise? And he said, I made the straight A honor roll. And I was so proud of him. So, of course, I had to keep my word and get him in college. So I said, well, did you get registered yet? And he said, no. So I let it go. He had sent in his paperwork, but they hadn't responded back to him. Well, being raised with his mother's culture, he's not going to push. So I said, did you get ready? Oh, no, they didn't call me back. So then, to make a long story short, I called Mike, the president, Mike Richards, Dr. Richards at CSN, and I said, I've got a kid that finished school with straight A's, high school, straight A's, that never got a scholarship. I said, he sent his paperwork in, but he hasn't heard from his paperwork. So he said, and I was hyperventilating by then, and he said, Hannah, just calm down, I'll take care of it. So about an hour later, he calls and said, I have an appointment tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I said, I'll pick you up at 12:30. So I went and got him and his mom and took him over and registered him for college. And he was eligible for all kinds of stuff, because his mom's income is very low with 4 kids. So we were walking out of the registration office, and he was between the two of us. And he doesn't show much emotion, but he had his paperwork in his hand. All of a sudden, I look at him, and he's got this big smile on his face, and he said, I'm the only person in my family that's ever going to college. And, of course, my eyes start welling up with water, and I can't talk. Well, he made straight A's his first semester because he is under the impression that I won't accept anything less than A's, because my role is to make sure he has everything he needs. His role is to get A's, okay? So anyway, so the next semester he made 1 B plus, and I thought he'd have a coronary. I had to finally get his mom to tell him, it's okay. All I want you to do is the very best you can. So he finished with a 3.9 GPA, which is A, and we got him registered in college this year. But that's my biggest accomplishment over the last couple of years. Turns out his little sister, who's 10 months younger than him, was on the straight A honor roll all the way through high school. So we just got her enrolled in college. So
I can see in your eyes that you know how important the story you just told us is, and the people. It's not the story; it's the people.
Yeah,
you help people.
It's in my heart, and you said.
Describe, if you can recall, a moment or the moment when you decided that serving others was your business.
When I came back home from Atlanta, I kind of, I like being involved, but I wasn't really grounded on what I really wanted to be involved with. And I joined a church that had a few young people that were not very well off because, you know, I had a good job and I was making great money. And I started just helping some of the, one great grandmother had 3 little kids, and I started helping her and befriended another little girl that I really liked. And I just decided that, that there were people that weren't as well off as I was. And I made, you know, just became a part of my DNA to try to help them.
So what I was hoping you could talk about is if you feel like you've had a calling and how that felt and how it came to you.
I think it's my gift. I always refer to when God gave the one person one gift, he gave another one 2 gifts, and he gave another one several gifts. And the one that had the one gift buried his, the other person did some with his, and the person that had many gifts shared his gifts. And I believe it is my gift. I truly believe that when God blesses you, he doesn't bless you for you. He blesses you to be a blessing to persons, to others that have not been blessed to the level that you have. And I truly believe it's my gift. And I believe that God intends for me to share that gift. And that's what I try to do. My heart's desire is to give back to the community that produced me. When I was raised in this community, nobody had anything. But I had a few people that believed that I could do anything that I wanted, that I set my heart to do. And I believe that was what motivated and encouraged me to continue and to succeed in my career to the level that I did. I mean, there weren't many people in my community, first of all, at my age when I grew up here. And then when you look at the few people that were here, there weren't many people that succeeded in my community because there were no opportunities. I happened to be plucked out and placed in a position where I was able to succeed. And I believe that it is incumbent upon me, especially at this point in my life when I no longer have to depend on my job for my livelihood, to give back to the community that produced me.
Thank you. Do you have a particular spiritual practice other than attending your church?
Other than trying to help everybody that's breathing.
No, you can include that. You can include that. That's absolutely a spiritual practice. I believe service is the highest spiritual principle.
Yeah, that's, I would have to say it has to be service, because I truly try to help anybody that I can. Anyone that, and especially if it's someone that believes I have something to contribute or to offer them, I will never refuse to meet with anyone, and I will never minimize whatever their dream is. And a lot of times it's more far-fetched than my mind than I can really wrap my mind around, but I never really minimize anybody else's dream.
You know, I normally ask these 2 questions separately, but I'm going to ask them of you together.
Okay.
So we have someone who's a viewer of this video, who's never been of service to anyone, and has never had any spiritual practice. They may never have attended church or any house of worship, and they may not even believe that God exists. So what would you recommend as a way to introduce them to spirit and to service?
Well, first of all, they've missed a lot of their joy. Half of my reward in life is being able to know that I've helped someone other than myself. And, you know, obviously I don't include my daughter in that because she's a given. I mean, as long as I have breath in my body, obviously I will see that I do whatever I can for her. But I don't include her in that. But I really think, and what I recommend to people when they say, oh my gosh, I'm retired, I'm so bored, I said, you know, what do you enjoy doing? If they enjoy cooking, you can go down to the shelter, you can help cook there, you can volunteer. If they enjoy, like, you know, I knit. I'm not so much anymore, but knitting is one of my hobbies. So at one point, if I knew you were having a baby, then you got that little signature Hannah Brown blanket because you had to have that blanket. And I think, you know, each of us has a talent. I don't know what their talent is or what they enjoy doing. But if it's basket weaving, you know, make a basket for someone that can't walk. Make a, you know, go pick up a cane and take it to someone that has difficulty walking.